Today we're going to continue on with our series of radio station formats and what do they do specifically with their music? How many currents do they usually play? How big is their universe of all of their songs? That type of stuff. Hey Buckaroos, welcome back to Musicom Academy. Like our other lessons and the ones that are still to come, we're going to be taking apart particular music formats, all the really major music formats that radio does. And this format is what we're going to be doing today. And so if you want to know about this one and how we compare, because I will compare this particular format to the other formats that we've done right at around the end of the lesson, okay? So like, we started out with AC as the first one, so you'd see AC, here's the recurrents they play, here's the universe of songs that they play, here's the gold, here's the recurrents, and then underneath that will be another format and what that format does. And then underneath that, another format and what that one does. So you can see as the weeks go on, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 10 or 11 of particular formats, and you can really see, well, geez, if you're going to build one of these, this is kind of the ballpark that you need to be in. So let's go to the computer and we'll get that done. Okay, the game this week is Urban AC. Last week we did Urban as a format, and of course before that we did CHR and AC. You might want to go back and get those lessons. They start at lesson 84, okay? Now, there's a lot more detail in this Urban AC because there's a lot of them and they're really, really successful radio stations. You can kind of, as I've gone through this and started to pick across formats, and see what they do and looking at the ratings, generally speaking, if you're a classic hits radio station, you're an Urban AC radio station, or you're an AC radio station, you're pretty much in the top 5. I mean, that's, it's almost universal. And you can kind of throw in a classic rock in there here and there. And when you put those sort of formats together, for the most part, they're playing gold. They're not playing a lot of current titles. And that's a big debate as to whether playing gold stuff is what you need to do now because there's less young audience, or playing gold has caused less young audience, that to disappear because you're not playing songs that a younger audience likes, or younger audience likes older songs that are already an established hit. There's no debating whether they're hits or not. They've been hits for years. And hence we come to the Urban AC format, which looks a lot like, a regular AC, like a white AC. I hate to get into those kind of semantics, but it's, as Walt Baby Love was pointing out to me when I did the interview with him, there's black stations and there's white stations. Just call it the way it is. Everybody understands that it's way clearer when you're talking. So I'm going to kind of lean onto that. An Urban AC versus a regular AC. That's kind of where we are. Although there's, tons of, white audience listens to an Urban AC because they sound great. They usually play great music, which is, another bearing on the ratings. Again, all of these radio stations, every one of these numbers, they have great ratings. The ones with X's have better ratings than the others, okay? So they might be number 1 in a market, or number 2, or pretty much top 3 for sure, okay? So, bear that in mind as we're going through these to look at what they do. So starting from, the overall plays like we usually do, they're lower than, the other stations. They're lower than Urbans, and they're lower than, a typical CHR, which are, over 2,000. There's only really one that's over 2,000 here, this one. And that's only over by a little bit. These are, down in the 1,600s and 1,400s. They play less songs, is what I'm trying to get at. And the average is only 743. When I go to the next page and compare the average of the Urban AC stations to the average of the other formats that we've done so far, you're going to see that this is less than the others. Now, unique titles, 709 is the average, and they vary. They vary from almost 1,000 down to 366. Again, look at the unique titles with these X's. These are the ones that really are strong radio stations. These have a pretty fair amount of unique titles. Moving over to current titles, and again, these are the plays. This is the amount of titles that they play, different songs, and this is how much they spin those 40 different songs. So this one's got 40, this one 20, 36, 47, 149 different current songs much like a regular urban station, which has a lot of current titles. This one has 113 and it does well. This one only has 36. What is that? That's a third of this one. And this one does really well also. But the unique titles are pretty close together. 822, 980, not that far apart. Let's move over to recurrence. This is where, when you compare this format against other formats, or at least certainly to look, against an AC, they're kind of together on this in that there's not a lot of recurrence being played. They spin them a lot, depending on, which station it is. So they're turning them, but they don't play a whole lot of them. The average is only 16. They go down to 5, and they go up only as high as 32, which is pretty much what, that's what a low recurrent titled CHR would do, 32. Kind of, at least there's a running theme here, less recurrence. Gold titles, let's just jump right down to the average, 639. Pretty fair amount of gold being played. This is really the only outlier. I mean, this one's kind of sort of low too at 418. Again, looking across, no X. 341, no X. Again, good station, but not super strong like these other ones. Let me just look at this for just a second. This is an X station, 664. Another X station, 835. Another one with an X, 766. Another one with an X, 608. So 608 is as low as they're going to go. So they're playing a pretty fair amount of gold here. And not a huge amount of recurrence. Well, this one's got 32. Take that back. This one's got 11, and current titles, 40, 36, pretty similar. 113, huge amount. And 41, kind of like the other three. A lot of differences in the currents and recurrence. Not so much difference in the amount of gold, and not so much difference in the amount of unique titles. And lastly, over here, if you look at the average year is 2001. 2001 appears to be, the strong sweet spot. Some go less than that, stations go more than that. Let's go over to the averages of all formats that we have done so far. Let me get rid of this. What do we have that stands out here? First off, again, ignore this AAA, that we did, as a one-off on its own. So because this is such an odd format, the way it's done. So let's just ignore that. So let's start with maybe the comparison between urban and an urban AC. Okay, so a lot of overall plays, way less overall plays. Kind of a little less than half the amount of unique titles. So they play a lot of unique titles for AC version, not so much for the urban. Very, very close to a regular AC, a white AC, but an urban AC has got kind of almost twice as many titles as a white AC, which is interesting to me. Current titles, this is where it really starts to get different. A white AC, 7 titles, 7 to 13. That's kind of the way I think all of them kind of ran. This one, the average is 52. Whoa, closer to a white CHR. And, and they're spinning them pretty good, those current titles. Obviously, with 52 of them, they're going to be playing them certainly, slow, because 52 into 263 doesn't, what does it go, 4 or 5 times? Where this one, 127 plays on only 7 songs, these are going to be coming around a little bit faster. So these are a lot of currents, slower rotation. Recurrent titles, sort of similar, 12 to 16, and 16 to 55 is a pretty big difference, for urban AC to urban. Same thing here, 52 to 93. That's half the amount of current titles of an urban station. And then when we look at the gold titles for an urban, 300, urban AC, 639, double the amount of gold titles, and another 30-some% more than a regular AC, than a white AC, 400 to 600. The average year, 2001. Average year of a regular AC, 1998. Average year of an urban, 2018. A 17-year difference there, so you can tell that this is definitely older than a regular urban radio station, but pretty close to a regular AC radio station. Now I'm just going to throw this out here, and I don't really know for sure, so this is just a pure guess on my part. But when I look at these formats, and I know, I can hear them in my head of what they do because I'm familiar with all of them, I go, okay, 435 AC radio station, and this is what they play, 7 titles, 12 recurrents, and 400 gold titles. And then I jump down to 600 gold titles, same amount of recurrence, kind of roughly same ballpark, a lot more currents and a lot more unique titles. And these currents are turning slower. They're not turning every maybe 5 hours. They're turning them maybe every 8 hours as they're coming around. What this looks like to me is, from just a listening point of view, assuming their PDs are good, and they have high ratings, so they probably are, these are probably pretty darn interesting and good sounding radio stations as a guess. They're playing a lot more gold hit music than the other radio stations. They're playing more currents than a current AC radio station, a normal AC radio station, but they're turning them slower, so that, assuming somebody's got a pretty good ear, they're probably more interesting. You probably don't hear the same songs over and over and over and over again. You're hearing more current stuff, and you're introduced to more current stuff, and probably the jocks on the air are probably explaining and talking about, this is a guess on my part now, but they probably are talking about the new artists, which makes them seem like a pretty cool radio station, a little bit more with it than a white AC radio station. That would be my guess from looking at these numbers. Recurrence, again, kind of the same, and the amount of gold, heavily a lot more, another 30% more, and the year, again, roughly in the same ballpark as a regular white AC radio station. So just generally speaking, I think probably this format is doing incredibly well because they're probably really good radio stations, and they are, let me put it this way, in the realm of building a radio station, they are closer to the old way where sound actually matters of building a radio station than just doing it by the numbers and doing what everybody else does and cookie cutter and all that sort of stuff. This doesn't look like they would be cookie cutter radio stations. Hope you like that. Hope you got something out of it. I think the comparisons of formats start to become pretty interesting. The more we keep adding on to, the more you can really see the differences. So if you like these, subscribe to the channel. We're over 700 PDs worldwide, 700 radio programmers watching these lessons. It's truly amazing to me, but cool, very cool. And if you like any one of the lessons, hit the like button and certainly hit that bell, because every time I put up a new lesson, you're going to get notified that there's a new lesson. And you don't have to go hunting for it or wondering or any of that stuff. So until there is a next lesson, see ya!